Stealthy ambushes, decisive trigger pulls, and every frame sent back brimming with tension. We've distilled the most intense, taking moments. Do you have the courage to face this relentless pursuit? Watch now and feel every second stretch tight like a drawn bowstring. On today's journey, we begin at the Biria fields, a vast, open expanse that, despite its flat and airy terrain, is the perfect hiding place for wild boars lurking between the edge of the forest and endless rice fields. Early in the morning, Pon's team arrived at the location, fully equipped with weapons and a pack of hunting dogs, ready to track down any signs of prey. After moving into their ambush position, 15 minutes passed in complete silence. Suddenly, a rustling sound echoed very close. Pon instantly scanned the area. A massive wild boar, weighing around 400 pounds, had it sensed something? Not letting it escape, Pon squeezed the trigger. Each shot rang out with purpose. The boar collapsed into the grass, marking the team's first triumph of the day. Leaving Biria behind, we continue our journey to the vineyards of Tuscany, where the once peaceful rows of vines have become the hiding grounds of savage beasts. Ronnie's team came fully prepared, armed with gear and a pack of hunting dogs, scouring each row of vines for signs of movement. As they examined the ground carefully, a sudden burst of barking echoed from afar. The hounds had picked up a scent. In less than a minute, a wild boar burst into view, panicking and charging through the vineyard. Do you think it could escape? Ronnie didn't give it the chance. A single shot rang out swift and decisive. The boar collapsed between the rows of grapes. In this hunt, there's no place for hesitation, only the fastest survive. Bidding farewell to the peaceful vineyards, we head straight to Corsica, a rugged land of jagged rocks and thick underbrush. The terrain grows harsher with every step, presenting a real challenge, even for seasoned marksmen. But Finn wasn't fazed. He had set out early, weaving through rocky outcrops and pushing past thorny thickets in silent pursuit of his prey. While navigating a narrow trail, a group of wild boars suddenly burst out from the brush, rummaging for food. Without hesitation, the first gunshot echoed through the hills. The startled boars scattered in What would you do in a moment like this? Chase them through the unforgiving terrain or let them vanish into the mountainside? Finn didn't back down. He fired again and again, each shot shadowing the frantic steps of the fleeing boars. But the terrain gave them cover, allowing most to disappear into steep, rocky slopes. Sona's team was already in position, spreading out across various ambush points around the mountain. Sona quickly settled into place, eyes locked on the landscape, patiently scanning for any signs of movement. Movement detected. A wild boar, panicked, came crashing through the underbrush in a frantic escape. The moment the beast came into view, Sona chambered around and locked onto the target. John, a seasoned marksman, enters with one goal in mind: let none escape. After just 15 minutes of pushing deeper into the dense thicket, he spots his target. A massive wild boar, nearly 500 pounds, suddenly charges straight at him. The boar collapses at his feet, ending the confrontation in an instant. Thick with thorns and tangled vegetation, it's long been considered an untouchable stronghold of wild boars. Less than 5 minutes in, a wild boar suddenly burst through the undergrowth at nearly 30 kilometers. The moment it entered his sights, Jack pulled the trigger. A single shot rang out. The boar collapsed into the dry grass. A clean, precise, and ice-cold finish to the Wild boars, tenacious monsters with razor-sharp tusks and terrifying power, capable of wrecking entire crops in the blink of an eye. They're not just aggressive, they're cunning, slipping through narrow trails and ready to charge when cornered, striking fear into the hearts of farmers. We can't let them continue their rampage. We, the hunters, must act immediately. So how we take down these beasts? Let's find out in this dramatic and intense hunt. Early in the morning, We hit the road, heading toward the base of the mountain in our trusty vehicle. This time, we were joined by well-trained hunting dogs specialized in sniffing out and tracking down wild boars hiding in the terrain.
At the property, and yeah, let's get them out.
As soon as we arrived, we quickly moved toward the pre-planned hunting spot. 5 minutes later, the sudden barking of the hunting dogs echoed through the area. We immediately moved toward the source of the sound. As we arrived, a massive wild boar burst out from the bushes below, desperately fleeing from the dogs on its trail. The moment it broke through the underbrush, I pulled the trigger without hesitation. The boar dropped on the spot, no chance to escape. "15 minutes passed in complete silence. Then suddenly, the hunting dog's barks erupted from deep within the forest. They must have picked up the scent of a wild boar. The sound grew louder and closer. I quickly focused, trying to pinpoint the target's position. There! It was charging out from the thick brush. I aligned my barrel with its movement, then squeezed the trigger. With a thunderous gunshot, the boar collapsed to the ground, unable to take another step. After that clean shot, we quickly moved up the mountain slope. Once again, the hounds barked loudly from the bushes below. We advanced to check the area. Suddenly, the wild boar charged upward, and I didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. The shot was decisive. The boar dropped, motionless, no chance to escape any further. At the foot of the mountain, we also had a team stationed to intercept. They were closing in on a wild boar, trying to hide. Under intense pressure, the boar was forced to abandon its cover. As it burst out, Lucas raised his rifle and locked onto the path the target was taken down. It didn't take us long to spot the next target, a wild boar being chased out of its hiding place by the hunting dogs. I quickly tracked its path, took aim, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the open air, and the boar collapsed, motionless in the grass. A teammate signaled that one had escaped, so so we quickly used our phones to pinpoint its direction. The sound of the hunting dogs echoed from the nearby forest. They were on the run. I raised my rifle, took aim, and pulled the trigger. On our way down a mountain, my hunting dog suddenly started barking loudly. It must have sensed a wild boar nearby. After a brief chase by the dogs, the boar bolted, unaware that someone had been waiting in ambush. And with just a single shot, it was stopped in its tracks. Once again, we swiftly dealt with a threat to the local farmers. The wild boar population in California is growing out of control. They destroy the land, ruin crops, and even pose a threat to farmers. The area of destruction keeps expanding. At this moment, hunters must take action to restore balance to the lives of the farmers here. So how will this hunt begin? And is there any danger awaiting the hunters? Wild boars are not easy prey. They can run up to 40 miles per hour, are stubborn, intelligent, and extremely alert. When cornered, they don't just flee, they can turn around and attack. For hunters, even a single moment of hesitation can come at the cost of blood. After we split up to search for signs of the prey, a sudden burst of movement came from the bushes. A whole herd of wild boars charged out, running right across my path. Without thinking, I raised my gun, took a quick aim, and pulled the trigger. One of the boars in the herd dropped instantly. The others, however, dashed away at full speed, escaping before I could reload. I moved to another position, and while tracking signs of the prey, I suddenly heard a rustling sound nearby. I immediately raised my gun and took careful aim. At another location, I heard the hunting dogs barking loudly. While scanning the surroundings, I spotted a dark figure moving in the bushes not far from me. I raised my gun and waited for the right moment. It was charging closer. I pulled the trigger. The first shot missed. It came even nearer. The second shot hit. The boar collapsed, landing just a few meters away from me. If I hadn't stayed calm at that moment, I might have paid a heavy price. It was dangerously close. Waiting in position, I saw a large boar weaving between the trees, trying to escape. Boom! The gunshot rang out, the bullet struck the wild boar's body. In another spot, Jake was already waiting at the trail exit. He stood with his rifle in hand, ready, just waiting for the prey to appear. And then a wild boar came charging forward. But the moment it spotted him, it changed direction to flee. Jake quickly pulled the trigger, giving it no chance to escape. He walked over to check, then signaled the others. 6. Night was falling. Hearing the loud barking of the hunting dogs, I moved closer. Suddenly, a wild boar burst out from the grass, charging straight at me. I stepped back while raising my rifle, pulling the trigger just as it lunged. The gunshot echoed, followed by its roar, and it collapsed on the spot. Had I been just 1 second slower, I might not be here to tell the story. In a city in Serbia, locals are facing an increasingly serious threat from wild boars. Weighing up to several hundred kilograms, these beasts have become terrifying monsters, striking fear into many people. To address this issue, Serbian authorities have authorized organized hunts to control the wild boar population and protect local communities. and we were determined to take down every single wild boar that had wreaked havoc on local farms the previous week. In such rugged terrain with countless twists and turns, we were fortunate to have a pack of hunting dogs by our side. Once everything was in place, I started making my way up the mountain. Within minutes, the howls of the dogs echoed through the forest. A wild boar was surrounded. Everything was going smoothly. I quickly moved in and fired to finish it off. Perfect. My shot hit dead on, dropping it instantly on the spot. Barely 5 minutes later, the team spotted another boar on the mountain slope. It was a golden opportunity one couldn't pass up. I swiftly raised my rifle, took aim, and pulled the trigger. A few hundred meters up the trail, the growling of our hunting dogs put me on full alert. Wow, it had been ages since I'd seen such a large group of wild boars. With my rifle ready, I squeezed the trigger repeatedly, unleashing a storm of bullets. At close range, two of the boars collapsed in a muddy patch, kicking and grunting their final sounds. The deeper we went into the forest, the denser the trees became, making it harder to observe, track, and shoot. Luckily, with help from our dogs, things got much easier. They quickly pinpointed the boars' hiding spots and barked loudly to alert us. The moment we heard that familiar sound, our whole team tightened formation, rifles ready. The chase grew chaotic until a loud gunshot rang out. Unbelievable, a single, clean shot from my friend Morgan dropped the boar instantly. And take a look at our trophy, a giant beast weighing nearly 200 kilograms. Nature always has a way of surprising us with gifts, and today, the wild boars in front of us were the next gift in line. Forced to scatter and flee from the relentless pursuit of our dogs, the herd broke formation. Seizing the moment, I didn't hesitate. I got into position and took aim. After I pulled the trigger, I proudly watched the boar tumble down the slope, my heart racing with excitement and satisfaction. It didn't take long before our sharp-nosed dogs locked onto another target. We moved in, closely monitoring the situation. This time, Elmer would take the shot. Once the boar was locked in, he pulled the trigger. With a single lethal shot, the boar collapsed and rolled down the hillside. Located in the northern and northwestern regions of Arkansas, USA, the Ozark National Forest is famous for its majestic landscapes and incredibly diverse ecosystems. However, it is also a perfect haven for wild boar herds, aggressive animals that are multiplying out of control. They ravage crops, damage the land, and have become a constant threat to the lives of residents in the surrounding areas. At the break of dawn, with the early mist still hanging low, our team quickly made its way into the forest. I climbed up a hunting stand that had been set up a few days earlier, quietly raised my binoculars, and scanned the area in front of me. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared in the lens. It was heading this way. I immediately adjusted the focus, aligned my gun barrel. Just as the boar stopped and showed signs of fleeing, I pulled the trigger. Taking down these giant beasts is no easy task. It requires perfect coordination and lightning-fast reflexes from the entire team. As soon as I reported the escaped boar, Arlo didn't hesitate for even a second. He moved straight to the intercept point we had calculated earlier. With his rifle already chambered, all it took was a single pull of the trigger. The boar instantly collapsed. Arlo and I ventured deeper into the forest. Amidst the vast wilderness, shouts echoed from various positions, putting us on high alert. There it is. A dark blur dashed past us, seemingly unafraid. But Arlo, with the composure of a seasoned hunter, swiftly raised his gun, aimed, and fired. A sharp gunshot rang through the forest, and with just one shot, the target dropped. Before we could catch our breath, two more boars suddenly burst out. They ran fast, but their fate had already been sealed. It was terrifying. 3 wild boars taken down in under a minute. Without a doubt, Arlo is the nightmare of wild boars in this forest. As we entered denser areas, we relied entirely on our pack of hunting dogs to detect the prey. The moment we heard fierce barking, the team rushed toward the source. Sure enough, a wild boar was cornered deep within a thick bush. Bang! A shot rang out, but before we could settle it. Oh my God, that was dangerous. The wild boar suddenly charged at us. My friend was injured, but thankfully, the boar was taken down shortly after. A heart-stopping moment that showed no hunting trip is guaranteed to go smooth. Even experienced hunters can face danger at any moment. After that dangerous encounter, we gathered ourselves and quickly resumed the hunt. I quietly hid under camouflage, watching as the prey walked right into an invisible trap. A sharp crack echoed. The boar tried to flee, driven by pure survival instinct, but collapsed just a few meters later. The moment it poked its head out from the bushes, I didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. This time, we had taken back the upper hand. Just 10 minutes later, I received an order via walkie-talkie to intercept a wild boar a few dozen meters ahead. I quickly ran to the designated spot, firmly gripping my gun. I was more cautious this time, from aiming to pulling the trigger, making sure the boar was completely neutralized with no chance of counterattack. By this point, the boars had become familiar with the presence of hunters and began hiding. Even so, under relentless pursuit from the hunting dogs, they were forced out of their shelters one by one. And we didn't miss a single opportunity, taking down the prey until the very last moments of the day.